Welcome to the Captain's Run. The energies are through the roof. Round one is here. Rugby league is back. My heart is whole. Honestly, life is good again. Smithy, mate, how were you over the round one weekend?
Kempy, what a great weekend of footy. Really, when
Yeah.
you think about the quality that we've seen across the weekend, starting with Thursday night, Parramatta v the Storm went into a golden point thriller. Harry Grant scoring the match-winning try for the Storm to win by 4 points. You know, some great stories coming out of that game. Bronson Garlick making his debut, 27-year-old making his debut. It just shows, you just hang in there, keep busting your backside, and you'll get a crack at some stage. Had 80 people come and watch his debut.
Crazy. I didn't even know 80 people, Smithy.
Neither do I. No, neither do I. You know plenty more than that. Plenty more. But yeah, look, it was a great way to start the round with a fantastic match. I thought the quality of that game was incredible. And then all the way across to Sunday, the Dolphins.
Oh, stop it.
Just it was great for that organisation to get a win first up, particularly against a powerhouse like the Roosters. But it was just a great day for rugby league, mate. 35,000 at Suncorp. It was sunny, beautiful day for footy. Plenty of kids out there watching their heroes run around, and just to see the amount of people out there with the Dolphins gear on, all the merchandise. It was just great, and for the day to conclude the way it did with a really strong victory was just fantastic.
And, we'll get to it later, but, yeah, I totally agree. To echo your sentiments, so good for rugby league. I have to say that there was a bit of a feeling of like, is there enough hype around the Dolphins coming in? Is there excitement?
Yeah.
And for them getting the win, all of a sudden it's like there is real excitement about this new team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the CEO came out afterwards and said, like, the merchandise they would run off the shelf straight after that game. There were everyone was grabbing stuff at the ground on Sunday, but straight after that win, there was another like $30,000 spent on Dolphins merchandise.
Yeah,
It's just
so good.
It's gone.
So good.
You can't get it anywhere.
Well, welcome to all our listeners. However you're tuning in, download the SEN app at the App Store or the Google Play Store. Subscribe to the Captain's Run on Apple and Spotify. So go to Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. You can subscribe so you can listen to us at any time on Apple or Spotify. Call in 1300 01 1170. Make sure to call in, guys, and ask all your footy questions. We love to interact with the community. Also, give us a text 0457 736 736 and make sure you're following our brand new Twitter profile at Captain's Run NRL and follow SEN League on Instagram and TikTok. Look, we're going to hopefully, we'll pressure Smithy into doing something on TikTok by the end of the year. I don't like our chances. But look, there's a big thumbs up from Thomas, so we'll get him into it.
Chances are quite low, mate. They're low, quite low. I'll be honest.
Mate, I'm with you, to be honest. The TikTok, I don't know that world. It's a foreign land.
Yep.
It's a foreign land. Now we're going to recap round one, the biggest storylines. We've got a special guest, St. George Illawarra Dragons halfback Benjamin Hunt. Go Dozer!
Yes.
Cannot wait. And then we'll preview round two. Plus, we'll get to your texts and calls. Also, Bloke will be live at the Riverina Hotel in Wagga Wagga at 6 p.m. this Friday. So myself and the crew, the Monday show crew, is Guru, Timmy and Maddie, are doing a live podcast powered by Ringers Western at the Riverina Hotel in Wagga Wagga this Friday, 6 p.m. On top of that, next Monday at 6 p.m., March 13th, Bloke and Ringers Western are doing a merch collab. So we are releasing work shirts with Ringers Western. Country Bloke, yes. 6 p.m. on Monday. There's a limited supply, guys, so once it's gone, it's gone. You won't be able to get it. We've never done shirts like this. We're also doing trucker hats. We've never done trucker hats as well.
Oh, they'll sell like hotcakes.
So 6 p.m. on Monday, be there. But enough about that. Let's get to Dolphins claim historic win over the Roosters. There's so many questions. But, first of all, going into the game, what were your feelings? Were you thinking... Obviously, every team has a chance, but we almost like, look, Roosters should win and win a solid win.
Oh, look, I'll be honest. They were my thoughts. I thought that there was going to be plenty of excitement, plenty of emotion around the Dolphins' first game, and so there should be. And if there was ever a game that they were going to get up for, it was going to be their very first one. I think we may have spoke about it on the Captain's Run last week about if there was ever going to be an upset or a scalp. A big scalp that the Dolphins were going to take. It was going to be round one, Roosters. I didn't tip the Roosters. I didn't tip the Dolphins. I thought the Roosters were going to be good enough, particularly they're more experienced players and they're key position players like Keary and Tedesco, Brandon Smith going to the Roosters too. I thought, at the crucial stages of the match, those players in particular would have taken control and come up with the right plays. But it was the exact opposite. It was Marshall King playing at a dummy half for the Dolphins. Katoa, I thought, was fantastic. 19-year-old on playing his very first game with the Dolphins, I thought was great.
Your boy Kafusi?
Well, Felice Kafusi, what a match he played. Oh. What a match he played. And they both teams started the game quite well, and it was quite an even matchup in the early stages. They were getting through their sets, they were getting to their kick. Like most teams did in round one, when there's a few nerves around and they just want to get into their football. But when the game was in the balance multiple times, Felice Kafusi come up with some huge plays, not with the football, but in defence. Yeah. And he put a huge hit on Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith, it left him on the deck for, a minute and a half, just clutching at his ribs, and took a bit of air out. Might have been a little bit embarrassed by his old teammate, I reckon.
Rib tickler. Good old rib tickler.
But, it just, and off the back of that strong performance, he claimed the what is called the Artie Legacy Medal. So it's the player of the game whenever the Dolphins play against the Roosters. Of course, the late, great Arthur Beetson played for both clubs. And so the player judged to be the best player on the ground picks up his medal. So wonderful accolade for Felice Kafusi to pick up in his first ever performance with the Dolphins. And he was the first player to sign a contract with the Dolphins.
Yeah,
he was the first guy signed. So it's a reward for a guy that sort of signed with a lot of unknown about the franchise and what other players were going to be signed there, and he took a leap and it's paid off for him.
I mean, his performance is incredible, and I love the fact that he's almost saying they're a no frills player. It's almost condescending, because it sounds like he doesn't have the pizzazz or whatever to impact games. And what I loved about it was you got to see why Kafusi has been a stalwart part of the Queensland side, a stalwart part of Storms. I mean, for how many years have these big, tall, wide-running forwards come through, and not for a second did the Storm or Queensland go, we're going to bring someone in for Kafusi. No. He's defensive. I'd argue he's one of the best defensive wide-running forwards that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been that way ever since he's come into the NRL. I remember when he joined the Melbourne Storm quite some time ago. That was one of the features of his game was his defence, and particularly the technique that he uses. You don't see that often anymore. Where they bend the back a little bit, get low and hit in under the football. He was fantastic. It was a great day just being there, mate. The question I have though, and as good as it was, the Dolphins getting the victory. The only question I do pose now to the Dolphins is, are you able to back that up?
Yeah.
That's going to be the difficult thing. As I said, the easiest part of, their first up match on Sunday was being up for the occasion. As I said, it was big crowd, great day for footy, great conditions to go out there and, use expansive football, throw it wide, few offloads. They were getting a lot of offloads. Now that the first game's out the way, can they continue to back that up over the next month to 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I will say, from a perspective of confidence, going into this season, a lot of questions were around their roster. Is their roster an NRL roster?
Yeah.
I think the good thing now is regardless of how they go now, you're right, it is. It's about a whole season worth of footy.
Yeah.
But at least regardless of how they can go, they can always fall back to, we beat a top-tier side, so we have the team to do it.
Well, they not only beat a top-tier side, the Roosters are a team that a fair few people have said that they're favourites to win the premiership this year.
I've got them as favourites.
You know what I mean? Well, yourself can be looking at their roster on paper, that it's one of the strongest. I don't know if it is the strongest in the NRL, but it's one of, and rightly so. You consider them one of the heavyweights, one of the the contenders to win the premiership. So to be able to knock them off in round one was a huge achievement. But the players with the Dolphins, they can't get caught up in that hype of or even being satisfied with just beating the Roosters this year and hanging their hat on that. While, it wasn't a great year for us, but we beat the Roosters. Like, they shouldn't be content with that.
Yeah.
If I was playing for the Dolphins, I'd be like, hey, boys, let's back this up. Let's back it up next week. Let's back it up the week after. Doesn't matter who we play. I think we've shown that we're good enough, but can we maintain that level of performance every week?
Now, Jeremy Marshall-King, what about his game? He is just gone, because I think it was a couple of years ago, he wasn't really an out-and-out hooker.
No.
And I personally thought he was a great signing by the Dolphins. One of those real special ones where Wayne identifies a guy that is slowly growing into something, but he's not going to break the bank.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts of his game on the weekend?
I thought he was great. And some of the options that he took from dummy half, and I know, his forwards did a great job getting him some quick play of the balls, and maybe the Roosters' defence was a little bit off. It probably was. But he still took his opportunities, and he set up the hammer with a line break early. He come out to his right-hand side. One of the defenders, I think it might have been Butcher, come out of the line. He took a bit of a show, and Marshall-King went straight through, passed it inside to the hammer. The hammer scores, and then he combined with the GOAT,
Marky Nichols.
Oh,
stop it!
Yeah, just with just a lovely little short ball, where again a defender come out of the line up in front of his inside man, and Marky Nichols was able to just skip into that space, and just a nice short ball by Marshall-King. It's fantastic. He's a perfect person for this job, where he's come from the Bulldogs. He's got a fair bit of experience under his belt now. And I don't think we probably didn't see the best of him over the last couple of years because of the situation that he was in with the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Although I thought he finished the season extremely well last year. Like, his last half a dozen games were great. I remember sitting on a plane returning from Sydney last year after some commentary, and I ran into Peter O'Sullivan, and he actually asked me about Marshall-King. He said, mate, what are your thoughts on him? And I said, mate, I think he's perfect.
Yeah, wow,
He's perfect for, what you're trying to build there. He comes with a lot of experience. He's got a pretty level head. He's quite a strong defender. He's got a pretty good running game as well. So yeah, I think he would have been in the top three players on the field on Sunday.
Absolutely. And for people listening, Peter O'Sullivan is Dolphins recruitment manager.
Yep.
Actually, I've got a bit of a funny story. So I went to their season launch and I got to interview the boys, and it was a great environment. Anyway,
except you missed Mark Nichols.
No,
it was the one man you wanted.
I know. I wanted to go. I was out there. So I'm out there, and we're talking, it's 40 degrees. Seriously, I'm dripping sweat, absolutely dripping. Everyone packs their stuff up, and they're like, because Marky Nichols hasn't rocked up, it's holding up the whole launch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not leaving the red carpet. Marky Nichols is the main man I want to get. He's a marquee signing, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, then we get a message an hour later saying he's got food poisoning. So the poor bloke was on the bloody toilet. Anyway.
So back to your story. Sorry,
back to your story. No, it's all right.
Yeah.
So basically, we got inside, and I was speaking to a friend. I won't say who it is, but it was a player, a player in the starting 17. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, how's the preseason been, mate? And, rah, rah, rah. And I always try to be respectfully honest when I'm talking to players. I don't want to, on a show, say that their roster may not be a top 8 roster, and then in person go, oh, no, I think that. So anyway, I was like, mate, where's your... I just don't know where the explosiveness in your forward pack's going to come from. I like the fact that you're veterans and you've got discipline and you're going to grind all day, but I just don't know where. Anyway, so this player said, mate, I'll bet you $1,000 we'll make the 8.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how confident they are in themselves.
Top 8.
Top 8. He said, I'll bet you $1,000. Now, as you know, Smithy, I'm a battler. I don't have that kind of cash lying around.
Yeah.
Absolute battler.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't take it up. But I will say I've been thinking about it more. And I reckon if they do make the 8, Bloke will donate $1,000 to a charity of that player's choice.
Oh, good on you.
So,
and what if they don't, though?
If they don't,
are they handing the...
I'll reveal the person to put. So,
righto.
I'll reach out to him, and if he's okay with that, I'll. But yeah, so that's how confident they are, though.
Wow.
He
good on him.
And also, he was like on the front foot of like, nah, mate, I disagree with you. I think we got this player, and I loved it. I was like, that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want that kind of stuff.
Well, confidence.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Now, just quickly before we go to the break, the Roosters, is it alarming? I know it's round 1, and disclaimer out of the way, round 1, long season.
Mm-hmm.
But what were your thoughts on the Roosters?
Well, they certainly weren't at their best at all. And they had some errors there which would be concerning. Coming into round one, you'd expect the Roosters to be much more disciplined than what they were on the weekend. And you can toss several excuses up as far as missing players. They were missing several of their starting players on the weekend. Short preparation. They had a lot of guys involved in World Cup commitments, so they've only been back sort of 6 weeks before the competition started. But from a team that is regarded as highly as they are by many people in the game, they needed to perform better than that. They really did. And I don't know, maybe there was some complacency in that game on the weekend for the Roosters, thinking, well, it's the new outfit that we're playing. A lot of people have said that it's not much of a squad that they've got. They haven't got any marquee players. We'll just turn up and win because we're the Roosters. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I'm not too sure. I'm just saying it could have been there. But certainly, from a coach's point of view, I think there was a couple of things there, a couple of signs that I'm sure Trent Robinson wouldn't have been happy with. And I spoke to him pre-game, Kempy, and I said, off the back of last year, what's an area of your game that you really want to improve coming into 2023? And he pretty much said it's our defence. Our defence wasn't good enough last year. They just snuck into sixth. Okay, they had a poor start to the year. They won a lot of games at the end. I think they won 8 straight leading into
run.
The finals. Something around those numbers. But when you look back to the 2 seasons where they won those back-to-back premierships, and you look over any team that's won the premiership over the last, I'm going to say 20 years, they've been very strong defensively. That's the alarming part for them. They conceded 28 points. 28 points against the Dolphins on Sunday. I think that's what really most of the conversations would have been about this week for the Roosters.
Yeah, it's. I think even though it's round one, it's a really disappointing. And I think that when you watch the game, it did feel like they, in the back of their minds, they were like, "Look, eventually we're so good, and they are so good, we'll be able to get the points that we need to." And they didn't really get into the grind. They didn't sit there and go, "Okay, let's calm it all down. Get through 5 sets, no errors, kick into the corners, and see what happens."
Notoriously slow starters. I think out of the last 5 round one matches that they've played the last 5 years, they've only won 1.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I don't think that's a plan. Like, you're not happy losing those early matches.
Absolutely not.
Like, you need to bank them. I'd rather bank wins early, right, than try to, get through an Origin series and then go, righto, boys, let's try and get some wins now. We're not sitting in we're out of the 8 or we're just on the edge of it. We need to get some wins. Get them early. Get them early so then you know exactly where you're at and you can plan, those last sort of month and a half going into finals.
Well, if they had won a few more earlier games last year, they would have been top 4, and they wouldn't have ran into the Rabbitohs most likely, and all of a sudden the season looks different. Now, look, we're going to head to a break. Make sure to text in 0457 736 736 or give us a call. Ask any footy questions, 1300 01 1170. We've got the Broncos' huge upset win over the Premiers, and all but one match, round one, was decided by 10 points or less. So we'll discuss, is this a sign of how close the competition will be this year? We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Make sure to give us a call, 1300 01 1170, or give us a text, 0457 736 736, and follow us on SEN League on Instagram, so at SEN League, or on Twitter, at Captain's Run NRL. But we actually have a caller here. We've got Blake from Toowoomba. Blake, you there, mate?
Hey, how you going, boys?
Hey, Blake.
Got a smoky for Dally M for you.
Who you got, mate?
Massive Cowboys supporter. But I'd love Scotty D to get it, but I think Kalen Pong is in for a good year.
Ooh, yeah. KP.
What do you reckon, Smithy?
Look, there's no doubt that he's got the ability to do that, like to pick up, big points for the Newcastle side. I think, whenever they're winning, he's going to have a major effect on their performances. So I think, as I said, he's got the ability to do it, Blake, but just whether he can stay on the field, I think that's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's for sure, definitely. But yes, he's got the pack. Well, he just needs someone to stand up with the forward pack and that. But like you said, he's definitely got the ability for it. A nice Cameron Smith doing the hooking would be all right.
Mate, get him out of retirement.
Oh, mate.
That's the first off, mate.
Mate, I think with KP, I know he wouldn't be personally, but like my main focus with Kalen is just be on the field for as long as you can this season. Like that's the main focus. If I can get as many minutes in as possible, because you'd be surprised that you can do as much training as you want. You can have the best science, the best facilities, everything. Nothing beats just time on the footy field, timing, the feel for defence. It truly is like you honestly, when you're a player, you don't realise it until you're halfway through the season and you're realising, like this is kind of easy. Not easy, but it's getting easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest challenge KP faces this year.
Hey, Blake, you're a Cowboy. You said you're a Cowboys fan, mate. What do you think of their first up round match?
Oh, it's the best first half I've ever seen in my life, to be honest. Kind of fell away a bit, but it's Canberra, so they're always going to come out tough, and like they always do, can't put them away. But I'm glad they're stuck in there, so I think we're in for a good year as well.
Scotty Drinkwater, mate, happy with his performance?
Oh, my God, he's a freak. Absolute freak.
The drink. The great drink. Mate,
I might be a bit of myself, to be honest.
Mate, thank you so much for calling.
Good on you, Blake.
Appreciate it, mate. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Make sure to text 0457 736 736. And we've got some great texts here, Smithy, some great texts. Hey, one of the texts here, so apologies. Hey, guys, is there an issue for the Sharkies watching their defence on the weekend?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they were certainly missing Nico Hines, just a bit of their direction. The defence was a strong part of their game last year and an area that they improved a lot coming out of 2021. But, you know, I think, it's hard. Like we all want to win every match. But again, it is round one, and sometimes we just got to let the team settle a little bit, and we'll get a good indication, I think, a month in. Where all the teams are at, and as I said, you know, Nico Hines not being there, he's a huge part of their team. He's got a massive influence on the way they play. I think when he does come back, he's still not in the side. Which is a little bit concerning for Sharkies fans. And there's a few little rumours running around saying, you know, that the issue with the calf is a little bit more serious than what they're letting on. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, if I'm going to be super critical with the Sharkies, and this is just like nitpicking, because I think it's round one, they'll be fine. I will say in finals footy, they began to leak quite a few points defensively.
Yeah, they did.
And then obviously round one. And so all the big games they've had since, you know, the new Sharks have been around, they have seemed to not play as well in the bigger games. That's true. Being super nitpicky, though. It's you know, we don't have much data to go on, but on the games that we've seen, finals footy and then round one. But I think they'll be fine. I think they've got an incredible roster. Hines will be great when he gets back. But we have the great Benjamin Hunt on the line here. Benny Hunt, you there, mate?
Yeah, mate. How are you?
Those are.
When was the last time you were called Benjamin?
A couple of boys called me that at training, trying to have a go. Legally, I'm only Ben, mate.
Hey, honey, big year last year, 2022. Obviously, you know, with the Dragons played a huge role there, mate, with the red and white, and then Queensland obviously having an integral part, particularly in Game 3, enormous, and then World Cup duties. How's the body and the mind going into another season?
It's pretty good now, Smithy. To be honest, when we went back to training after Christmas, I was a bit nervous about it. I was still feeling a bit, like I wanted a bit more of a break. Like you said, it was a long year. Contributed a lot and played a lot of footy and obviously finished with the World Cup. I was feeling a bit drained, and usually when pre-season rolls around, you're ready. You're like, I'm keen to get back into it and do something now. But a couple of days before I was driving back to Sydney, I was like, oh, geez, I don't really feel like going back.
Mate.
The club's been really good, mate. They rested me a bit, and I've really taken care of me the few weeks we've had leading to the trial, so I'm feeling good to go.
Mate, maybe that's why you guys had such a long career, because I never wanted to go back to pre-season. So maybe that's the difference. Now, Brucey, obviously you guys are under the microscope at the moment. There's a lot of pressure at the club, a lot of chat, anything that goes right or wrong, it's going to be in the media. I just want to ask, you've been around the track for a while now and you've been in these high pressure situations. How do you reckon you're handling this differently now, say, to 5 to 6 years ago when it's all it feels like a bit of a whirlwind?
Yeah, well, personally for me, obviously it's a lot easier because like you just touched on 5 or 6 years ago, I was a lot younger and I didn't really know how to take these situations. But now I got a lot more insight on them, I guess, being a senior player and talk to the coach and staff and hook a lot more and a lot closer to the situations. I feel like that I'm a lot more comfortable because I know what's really going on, not just, hearing it from different people about different things that's happening. I've got a good grasp on what the situations are and things like that. And to be honest, internally, they haven't been, probably as major as media have made them out to be. Yes, there's a few things that have happened that you'd rather didn't happen. But, from the inside, we're feeling really good and we're just excited to get into the season.
Well, mate, I think all Dragons fans, they'd be really pleased to hear that internally, you're all confident about the season ahead and everyone's looking forward to it. What about the pressure? Kemby just touched on, pressure around the group and winning footy games particularly. What about Anthony Griffin, mate, head coach? How's he been through the pre-season and what are the players thinking for him leading into this year?
Yeah, he's been really good, mate, through the pre-season. I've noticed this pre-season coming back, he's put a lot more... he's let the assistant coaches take a lot more control and run a lot of things differently. We've got 2 new assistant coaches coming in this year in Ryan Carr and Benny Wolf, and they've done a great job of setting the team up with how they want to run defense and offense. And Hawks just sort of step back and let them do their thing. And it's been really good. Obviously, he chimes in where he needs to, but. He's been really good, and I don't think he's noticing any pressure at all.
Yep.
He always says to us that he never reads into the media and things like that, so he doesn't know what's going on. But I generally think that he's feeling really good. He's confident about our squad and what we can produce. We just got to get out and repay the favour.
Now, Benny, you, as a leader of the team, Dragons are in this interesting position because they have such good young talent and. I think some of the young talent, they came onto the scene, guns blazing, and then last year was a little bit quiet. What are you doing to help guys like, even a guy like Lomax? I know he's been around for a while, but he's super, super talented, like some of the best talent of centres in all the game. What are you doing as a leader to try to give these young fellas confidence to really realise their potential?
Yeah, you're right, Kim, but they really burst onto the scene and, showed glimpses of how special they are and, I guess probably got a lot of media hype that really blew them up, and I'm not sure if they got ahead of themselves or whatnot, but everyone sort of comes crashing back down at some stage if you don't have a couple of good games. But the biggest thing that I've been trying to teach them is to really narrow the gap between your best game and your worst game. You can do all the best things in the world and the flashiest plays, but if every second or third one you're making an error or it's not coming off, then you're not helping the team. So I'm just trying to, really balance them out and when to use their ability and, go for those big plays and, when to play it safe and play a controlled game.
Now, when you're talking about those young fellas, joining you in the spine, yourself and Moses Empire, Sloaney and Jaden Sullivan. If things don't go to plan, right? Say if you have a couple of losses here and there or performances aren't up to scratch, do you think it's important that the club just sticks with those players though, to try and give them an opportunity just to spend a bit more time in the NRL and form those combinations?
Yeah, definitely, Smithy. I think that's what they've got to do. Moses Embire's come back in the pre-season and said he wants to have a genuine crack at being a number 9, and he's worked really hard on his craft at being that, and he's just sort of bobbed in and out of there in the past, so it's good that he wants to come back and really make a go of that. And I've seen him just come a long way in the last 3-4 weeks and doing a lot of work on that, so that's really good. And for those young guys, it's definitely about just leaving them in there and letting them get the experience. The only way to learn and to get better, I think, is to obviously out there experiencing it at a high pace and, adjusting as you go.
Mate, you've lost Josh Maguire a couple of years ago, or about a year ago. Then Andrew McCulloch, Macca has moved on. So two of your best mates, mate. Who's the team pest now? Obviously, you would be one of them, but who's the team pest now?
Yeah, a couple of old war horses that hung him up. Jack Bird's always been a bit of a pest. He still lingers around. And between being a pest and complaining about everything, it's probably Birdie. But no one will be on Moose's level as a pest.
Oh, mate. He's an immortal.
Relax a bit.
Honestly,
mate, he's one of the greats.
He's literally an immortal pest. If there was a mortal, he'd be their number one. Number one. Now, also, the great Blake Laurie, the brick in the middle there. He actually, I feel like he's probably been your best player of the trials, especially against St. Helens. I thought he was fantastic. He just re-signed a new deal. How do you see his season kind of panning out?
Yeah, big Colonel Laurie in the middle, mate. He's been exceptional. I've noticed a real change in him since I come back after Christmas. He really wants to be a leader and an experienced player, and someone that the younger forwards and that can lean on and rely on to really help them in the middle. And I've definitely noticed that he's doing a lot of things that I've noticed that he wasn't doing, last year or in previous years, and he's just hungry for success. He's just a guy that really wants it bad. And, you can rely on him and he'll do all the hard yards. And, I think he's in for one of his best years for sure.
Now, mate, you boys had the opportunity to have the round one bye. What did you make of round one, of the footy played? And looking forward to your first game of the year against the Titans this weekend.
Yeah, mate, it was pretty interesting just to sit around for the first weekend and just watch the footy. And, geez, wasn't it some high-quality footy, I thought, for round one. Just the pace of the game and, some of the quality of, the teams rolled out for round one, I thought it was really good. And, I sat down and watched the Tigers-Titans game, and, I thought Titans looked pretty sharp. They threw a lot at the Tigers, in that second half. And, I think it's going to be a pretty quality match come Sunday with them.
Now, for yourself personally, Benny Hunt, had an incredible year last year, one of your best years of your career. What's the kind of, I know you've got the obvious goals of, leading the team to top 8, but I guess how do you go from last year to another level on top of that? What's the kind of plan for you personally?
Yeah, personally, like you touched on, Kempy last year was, I think probably my best career year that I've had, and playing rep footy and winning a World Cup and things like that. But I still haven't fulfilled what I want to fulfil. Personally, I really want to get the Dragons into the finals and win some finals games. That's in the end, for me anyway. In the end, that's why I play the game. I want to play finals footy and be there and at the end of the year and really challenging. So that's where I want to get this team to, and I believe we're definitely a year closer. We've got a good mix of the young guys and old guys now, and if those young guys can take another step and really develop, I think we've got a team to do it. So that's where I'm headed. Personally this year, I want to get the Dragons into the finals.
Mate, Brucey, thank you so much, Dozer, for giving us for calling us or coming on the show. Apologies. Really appreciate your time, mate, and good luck this year, mate.
No worries.
Good luck, honey. Good on you, mate.
There he is, the great Dozer. Oh, man, one of the great Origin moments. Holy. Hey. I still remember it clear as day. My man beside me couldn't contain himself. He couldn't contain himself. I was jumping on my bed in my hotel room.
What a moment.
Incredible stuff. Now,
hey, I tell you what, Dragons fans, they'll be excited to hear that.
Oh, absolutely.
Benny Hunt saying, hey, I want to take this team to the finals.
Yeah, and also Dragons fans, I know, there's been a lot of pressure around it, but last year they were only, I think, 2 wins out of the 8.
They weren't far.
And so they kind of snuck up on everyone and did solidly last year. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, especially with a guy like Ben Hunt leading them around. Now, we're going to head to the break. After the break, best hands thanks to Schnitz. They're back, guys.
Oh, they're back.
Anyway,
yes.
Let's get to the break. After that, best hands thanks to Schnitz. Oh, yeah, Schnitties are back. Thanks to Schnitz. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with myself and Cam Smith. Thanks to the SEN app. Download it today for free in the App Store and listen anywhere, anytime. But we have best hands thanks to Schnitz ready to go, back for another year. What do we got, Smithy?
Righto, mate. We got 1 point going to KP, Kalen Ponga, for his lovely hands to Heimel Hunt to score in the corner against the Warriors. I know they went down against the Warriors, but yeah, just the skill on show by Kalen Ponga in particular. Going to be interesting to see how he goes with that number 6 jersey on his back all year.
It's, it's like the caller said, if he nails it and he stays on, he will be up there in the top tier of the Dally M for sure. Yeah, top handful of players. For sure. Has to be. Particularly with, he's going to have higher involvement being in the front line and whatnot. Yeah. Great hands by KP. 2 points, Herbie Farmworth. Well, Herbie Farmworth was when he chased that grubber from Ezra Mam in those awful conditions. Well, they weren't awful. I've seen worse, but the wet conditions down in Penrith last Friday to score his second try against the Penny Panthers. Great win by the Broncos. I'm sure we'll touch on that, Kempy. Oh, yeah.
Did you tip the Broncos? No, you didn't.
I can't remember, Smithy. I can't remember.
I don't think you did. That was great work. Herbie, great to see Herbie back on the field. He's a huge part of that Broncos outfit. But 3 points goes to, our man, Munster.
The Mad Dog.
Cameron Munster. He's show and go to set up young Tonmapia against the Eels on Thursday. It was the scrum play. Now, I'm going to ask you, because I know you love your footy.
Okay.
Have you seen that play before run by the Melbourne Storm and a try has been scored off it?
Yes, I have. Ryan Pappenhausen dummying to Nass in the grand final.
That's it. That's it, mate. There you go.
There we go.
There you go, listeners. He loves his footy, watches all the games. And if you're thinking you've seen that play before, that's where it was from. But it was Pappy that ran the play.
Pinned his ears back and he just went.
And he pretty much, just wrapped up that grand final. So well done to those boys. 1 point KP, 2 points Herbie Farmworth, 3 points to Cam Munster.
Schnitz bite into golden, delicious, handcrafted schnitzels. After the break, we'll wrap up the first hour. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Another hour done and dusted, guys. First hour of the show. We've got some texts here. Hey, boys, allegedly the Storm are after Paddy Carrigan. Do you think he would sign with the Storm? Look, I think every club's going to be after Paddy Carrigan when he is ready to talk November 1st this year.
He will have several clubs, no doubt, Kempy. One of the best forwards in the competition. A great young leader as well. He's an up-and-coming leader. Has captained the Broncos before. If he stays fit, look, he's got a very long and successful career ahead of him. Personally, I can't see him leaving the Broncos, though. I know there's a little bit of juggling to do with the salary cap and all that sort of stuff. Payne Haas, of course, 2 great forwards. I just can't see him leaving at this stage. And let's not forget, he's got another season on top of this one, contracted to the Broncos. So let's just pump the brakes a little bit. He's got this year and 2024 to play out. He's a Bronco for the next 2 years.
I think you'll find as well, players like Paddy Carrigan, they are players that other players get moved around for him. So
of course,
the Broncos are going to be able to move players
He's a franchise player.
Yeah, he's a franchise player. You very rarely lose them. Now, we're going to head to the break. After the break, we're going to talk about NRL Independent Doctor. We're going to talk about Ricky Stewart, Wayne Bennett, Adam O'Brien. Plenty. Mitch Moses. Eels next 4 games. So much to talk about. Make sure to stay tuned. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run for Hour 2. We got some text here, Smithy. Hey, Kempy and Goat, what do you think the Tigers will need to fix to take the next step? Is it admin/board problem, or is the club just cursed?
No, I think the footy side needs to go out there and just win some footy games. I'll tell you one way to help do that. Start Appy Coruscant.
Oh, wow.
Please.
Wow.
Start him. So confusing. I know there would have been some plan behind it and whatnot, but the thing I'm a little bit confused about, right? So Robbie Farah's an assistant coach there, or part of the coaching staff. What would Faz's thoughts have been on Appy coming off the bench?
Surely he would be saying
I don't think Robbie
surely
ever started off the bench.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's a starting 9, and I'm sure if Sheensy would have said to Robbie during his career, mate, you start off the bench, we'll just give the other bloke, let him start. He would have said, no, mate, not happening.
Not happening.
I'm your number 1 choice, number 9. I'm getting out there.
Yeah, it was a really strange decision because he's the marquee signing. He's the captain of the club. Yeah. And, Tim Sheens, I think, kind of came out and basically said, he hadn't played any trials and that. But this is a veteran here. You know,
he knows what
he knows what he's doing. And plus, on top of that, you know, I know people say, well, at Penrith he didn't. He's like, we're talking about the back-to-back premiers here.
Yeah.
They can afford to be a bit cute with the interchanges.
Yeah. Different setup too.
You know, Tigers need to get off to a crazy good start and hopefully not get run down.
Yep.
Anyway, so hopefully they can fix that. Look, the good thing is they got the roster. Don't be too disappointed. Yes, it was a disappointing loss on the weekend, but it is round one. And how often do you get to round 20 and you almost forget what the team was playing around? Yep. So I think it's going to take time, just like the Bulldogs. I think it's great to be excited about the recruits, but it takes time for these combinations to gel.
Game time.
Oh, mate, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why you should start your hookup. Now, let's get into NRL independent doctor. Should clubs and coaches be trusted to identify concussions and withdraw players from matches? Ricky Stewart has come out and implied that the RLPA pushed for this and that the RLPA don't trust the coaches, and he believes that the coaches and the club doctors should make the decision. Wayne Bennett has also come out and he was similar to Ricky, but from a different angle. He just thinks that clubs need to be held more accountable. So if you do put someone on with HR, you should be fined significantly.
Wow. Yep.
That's where Wayne's coming from. And Adam O'Brien was also critical in regards to the Kalen Ponga situation where he was surprised that Kalen had come off.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the situation, mate?
Yeah, I tend to... There's a couple over the weekend where I seen that players were taken off from the decision of the independent doctor afterwards. Like I'm talking, a couple of minutes afterwards. Play was stopped and then they asked that player to leave the field. And there wasn't much in it. Like the Kalen Ponga thing wasn't much in it. I think Jared Wallace was asked to leave the field in the game on Sunday playing for the Dolphins where it looked like he may have got like a stinger, which is, a bit of sort of a tingling sensation through the shoulder and arm after you get a little bit sort of bent up in tackles. And they were asked to leave the field. So the thing I have about the independent doctor, and I know this is all around, logistics and it could be a fair bit to do with, the financial situation as well. The independent doctor sits in the bunker with the bunker officials. So he's not actually at the field, at the grounds, assessing these players, watching game live. He's viewing it from, the bunker in Sydney. Sure, he's got several angles to look at on the replays and all that sort of stuff, but I just think we need to have if there's an independent doctor for all of the games ruling on these incidents, I think they need to be at the ground. That's what I believe. Yeah,
I agree. And I think, I understand Ricky's frustration, and I don't really think it's about trust. It's about removing conflicts of interest in regards to independent
Exactly.
doctor.
That's a great way of saying it, mate.
Because, okay, we can try to trust the coaches, but you're not going to be thinking clearly when the top 8 is on the line, there's 5 minutes to go.
Yep.
And you've got a star player that copped a little knock. He's not dizzy. He's not stumbling around. You're not going to be...
There's no obvious signs.
There's no obvious signs. You're not going to be thinking as clearly as someone that has no skin in the game.
And not just when the game's on the line. What if your job's on the line?
100%.
And you need that win that weekend.
And look, no disrespect to Adam O'Brien, but if he loses a few games...
he's in that position.
He's in that position. So, and I'm not saying that he would have put it back on, but the reason why independent doctor is removing conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
Now, we've got actually some audio, though, of Luke Keary yesterday backing the NRL's independent doctor. Let's have a listen to that.
There's obviously a designated doctor sitting there just watching that. So, as a player, as much as it's frustrating sometimes if they might have got it wrong, I think as a player, we appreciate it. Even if we don't all say it, we would appreciate it that someone's actually sitting there looking out for us.
So that's Luke Keary, half for the Roosters, and as we seen on the weekend, he's wearing the headgear, and he has suffered several concussions. So, fairly credentialed person to be talking about this issue. And let's not get mixed up with what we're talking about here. The doctors, the NRL, the coaches, they all have the best intentions for the players and looking after their welfare, looking after their safety. But I think there's just, there's a few discussions or disagreements in particular around, the independent doctor and sometimes getting it wrong. I heard some comments from Billy Slater as well, talking about, his personal experience with head knocks and during his career. So he said, look, I've had several knocks or blows to my head and face area throughout my career. He said, I've been stretchered off on a Medicab when he was knocked out clean. He was playing against the Raiders. Soliola got him with a high tackle that it wasn't intentional, just got him high and he was knocked out cold, right? And he said, but there's been other times where I've been running the football or making a cover tackle or something like that where, I've copped a whack in the face or in the head and, you get a cut on your eyebrow or on your chin or something like that, but I've had zero effect. I have not felt dazed. I have not, felt sort of unsure of where I am or had any sort of, instant sort of memory loss. It's just one of those things that you can get a glancing blow to the face or head and be okay. So I think that's, at the moment, I think we're all one way. So any sort of knock to the head or face or even around the neck, we're just taking players off the field. I think that's the frustrating part. But everyone has got to remember the best intentions for the players and their welfare. That's what these decisions are based on.
Yeah, no, mate, I totally agree. I think as you alluded to, having a doctor at the ground, an independent one, it won't remove the ones that we get wrong, but I think it would help a little bit. I do also think that, and look, I understand the 15 minutes, I think it's there, and you may know more about this, because there may be delayed symptoms. That's why they have to wait so long. Yep. But hopefully there's a bit of a middle ground because, you could clearly see Kalen was fine. He was totally fine. There was, I'd assume, very minimal chances of delayed concussion symptoms. Yep. So could you get him back on after 5 minutes? Is there a way we could meet in the middle a bit, maybe? Yeah,
that's a difficult one too. Yeah. And I think too, Ricky Stewart coming out talking about RLPA doesn't trust the coaches, blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you why, another reason why the independent doctor's involved, the players. Yeah. A lot of the time, the players are their worst enemy. And I'll put my hand up. Yeah. I'll put my hand up. If I was playing, particularly in a tie game, and not even has to be a tie game, I used to hate coming off the field, Kempy. Hate it. Yeah. And when we might be out there playing a good game or even a tight game, whatever it was. If someone came to me and said, mate, are you feeling dazed? Are you feeling okay? I'd say, yeah, mate, I'm fine. Yeah. Leave me alone. Go tell the coach I'm good.
Yeah. Mate, that's the toughness part.
Yeah, and that it's something that it's sort of like a badge of honour type of thing. And a lot of people go, well, mate, that's a bit silly. But until you get the opportunity to go out there and play that elite style of football, you don't want to give it up. You don't want to give up an opportunity to be out there playing NRL football. So I think on the most part, players can be their worst enemies as well, which is why we've now got independent people making those decisions.
Yeah, agreed, mate. And players, they're not thinking about 20, 30, 40 years.
That's right.
They're thinking about right now. Yep. I need to be tough to play rugby league. I love this game. I love that part of it. Yep. So, mate, yeah, I totally agree. It's such a tough one because I will say, I think this is one of those real situations, very rarely, where everyone is coming from the best place. Yes. If you know what I mean? Right. Yep. There's not really one side that is coming from a negative place. No, everyone wants what's best for everyone. Yep. It's just because it's such murky waters, we don't know what's right or wrong. Yep. And we're working our way through it. Yep. So I can understand the NRL having the independent doctor, and I think it's probably the way to go, in my opinion. You're going to have an independent doctor. Now, Mitch Moses, contract saga. Could the ongoing details be a distraction for a halfback? He's also come out and he seemed quite a bit frustrated a couple of days ago. Basically said, some journalists that have been reporting on this and media outlets, they don't have any clue what the numbers are. So I think the implication there, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the implication is, the $1.2 and $1.4 million figures are probably inflated. Yep. That's only assumption, but
not
that's
accurate.
Not accurate. Because then the questions for Mitch Moses are you greedy and all that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, well, I think, it's hard. Who's giving these numbers to these people? Is it agents talking? Is it clubs talking? Footy manager, whoever? I'd like to think that, they're keeping it relatively quiet.
It's confidential.
Yeah, confidential. Because, let's just say a club outside of Parramatta are trying to sign Mitch Moses, and then they release, the details of that contract or that offer. If I was Mitch Moses, I'd be a little bit dirty on that, sure. and it could cause some issues moving forward. So but at the same time, contract talks can be a huge distraction. Particularly, when you're playing for a club like Parramatta, a huge club in the competition. A lot is reported on around their clubs and their players and their performances on the weekend, and also his position in that footy side, like being the half, being the man that they look to produce good performances every week. It can become a distraction if you're not strong enough as individually, to put it aside and go out and play, and as a group too. Like you really need to be a strong group to move through, distractions outside of your control, because that's ultimately that's what it's all about. You control the things you can control. You can't control what people write about you, what people say about you, and they're going to say some things that are positive and some things that are negative at times.
Yeah.
But what you got to control is the things you can control and just move forward with that. Now, that's the question. Can Mitch Moses do that, and can the Parramatta Eels do that until a decision's made?
Yeah, it's a really interesting time for the Eels because this is their next 4 games. Sharkies, Sea Eagles, Panthers, Roosters.
Yeah, it's the toughest run out of any club in the next month.
And so you already know that the narrative, if they lose another couple of games, the narrative will be this is a distraction.
Yeah, well, fingers will
start getting pointed
at Mitch, yeah.
And so I personally, I hope he gets it done. I was thinking, I think I tipped last week, I thought there was going to be an announcement before the game.
Yeah,
round
you
one.
did say that.
Wrong. I mean, it's the first time in my life, Smithy. Feels weird. Feels really weird, bro. Holy.
First time you got it right. Mate, got it wrong.
It's bizarre. It's a strange feeling. I'd hate to say I'm not going to get used to it, though. No, I'll never be wrong again. Mate, we've got some texts here. Just quickly back on Mitch Moses. Like this whole greedy narrative, obviously fans, the community can think what they want, but don't buy into this greedy narrative. This bloke's not a greedy bloke. We don't know what the figures are, and he's just trying to do what's best for himself. He is a commodity that's trying to get paid for his work.
And we said this 1,000 times, and I'll say it again. If someone's willing to pay it to you,
that's what you're worth.
What's wrong with taking it?
Yeah.
And if you're a little bit upset with those figures, well, go speak to the clubs, not the player.
Yeah, the player was, sorry, mate, I'm not worth that. I think I'm worth a bit less than that.
Anyway.
Come on. Now, I've got some text here. Hey, guys, what did you think of the Wade Graham hit? Illegal these days, but did that not look so spectacular? A few years ago, that would be on every NRL commercial. Cheers, Matt.
Yes, it would. I agree with you. It would be on every commercial, every promo. If you watch those ads closely, there still are some big hits that are not quite legal in today's game.
Yes.
So we do still use them. But no, look, we're just talking about HIAs and all that sort of stuff. And the modern game, as it does look spectacular. It's what separates our game from others, but it's illegal. It's just, you can't do that now. Some people go, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's where you're at. Like, there's rules in place now to protect ball carriers in particular. You just can't get away with it. You've got to be so cautious and careful on your tackle selection and the way you go in and attack a ball carrier as a defender.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I personally, it's unfortunate that we're not going to see those big hits as much, but it's just too much of a risk on your team. You just can't really afford to. Like, it is great if you get the boys up, like Kafusi.
Yes.
He risked it. He nailed it.
Yep.
But at the same time, now he's going to spend 4 weeks on the sideline.
Long time.
It's a long, long time. But you're right, Matt. It would be on the highlight reel forever back in the day. But I think it's understandable why the tackle's not. We're trying to look out for the players, well-being long term.
Yep.
Now, hey, boys, never too early for some Origin talk. Did you see Turbo playing this year if he's fit? Is it risky playing that high-intensity footy when you're coming back from a serious injury with higher reoccurrence? Cheers, boys. Up the mighty Maroons.
Oh, if he's fit, he will have a Blues jersey. I think that's the
shortest ever.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. If he's fit, he will be pulling on a sky blue jersey come game one.
And it's, you know what, it's great for the Origin arena because he is amazing in Origin.
Yeah.
I will say, I actually, it sounds a bit strange, but I actually liked that he pulled up a little bit. And I know that sounds weird.
I was just about to say the same thing. There was a couple of times where he got the ball. It looked like he was going to just pin it.
Yeah.
But he half went, oh, no, I might ease up here. And he got caught from behind. Like a couple of defenders were chasing him down. Where you sort of think 3-4 years ago,
boom,
gone.
Gonskis. You're not touching him.
So maybe, he's maybe just thinking, hey, I'm going to ease myself back into this. We're in a commanding position at the moment. I don't need to overextend. It was interesting. I actually, as soon as it happened, I stood up and I went, wow.
Yeah.
Is he, and you sort of start thinking, is he 100% or is he looking after himself? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's really interesting because even though he was playing within himself, he still had massive impact on the game.
Oh, huge influence.
So
just being there.
Oh, far out.
Just being there.
And so you look at it and you go, maybe we're going to see a new Turbo that he may not be as electrifying high speed as a couple of years ago, but he's still going to... It's kind of like a little bit when Darren Lockyer lost a bit of pace and he moved to 6.
Yep.
Back in the day when he was playing fullback, his speed just with that sweep play was just incredible.
Yep.
And then he just pulled things back a bit.
Yep.
And I wonder where Tommy is going to be. He's going to focus more on the hit-ups and the ball playing. Anyway, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got, have we got another Holy Schnitz moment? I think we do. Holy Schnitz. Oh, how good. That is fantastic to hear. So after the break, we've got our Holy Schnitz moment. We've got to preview the round. We've got text to get to, so make sure to stay tuned. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cam Smith. Now it's time for our Holy Schnitz, where you're sitting on the couch, Smithy, and you literally yelled at your TV, Holy Schnitz, or in the commentary box.
Yeah, I was at the ground when I yelled out Holy Schnitz when this moment happened. Cam Munster.
Yeah. Wow.
Compound fracture of the finger. It was disgusting. I don't know. And then takes a photo of it and shares.
No.
Shares it. Come on, mate.
Yeah.
We don't want to see that stuff.
Definitely don't want to see it.
But just when it happened, he ran off the field. You could half see the finger sort of sticking out sideways. And it was confirmed by the medical staff of the Melbourne Storm that the bone had come out of the skin. But the effort by Cam to come back on the field, he just strapped it up and said, no, I'm going back out there. Now, I'm sure the medical staff would have said, mate, look, it's round 1. Just give it a spell. I'm sure he would have said, no, I'm getting back out there. I know how important this round 1 win is to us. We want to continue this record for the club and for Craig Bellamy. Went back out there and was huge in the second half of the Storm to get it done. So that was my Holy Schnitz moment.
Oh, man, what a message that sends to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
One of your leaders going, look, it is round 1, and, most teams would sit out. Nah, we're getting the job done.
My finger bone is out of the skin.
Oh, yuck. Yuck.
He's now out for 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I hear reports from the Storm.
Got surgery, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. Now,
what was your moment?
My moment was actually in the UFC. So John Jones returns from 3 years off, goes up a weight division,
yes,
and he taps out the number 1 contender, Cyril Gain, in like a minute. And so now he's been heavyweight champ. He's been heavyweight champ, and I think light heavyweight champ.
Wow,
3 years off. 3 years off.
That's crazy.
Comes back and goes up a weight division, and then gets the belt. Absolutely, I was yelling "Holy Schnitz" for a whole day.
I know they're big moments, right? I don't watch a lot of UFC.
Yeah.
And I know they're huge moments watching, those first round knockouts and whatever. But if you're paying like huge amounts of money to go and watch these events, and the main event comes on and bang, it's all over, do you feel do you leave
shortchanged?
Yeah.
Well,
or is it just going to these events like a knockout could happen in the first 5 seconds?
Well, I think what they try to do is they put on such a long card
of
entertaining fights.
You get your money's worth.
You get your money's worth.
Okay.
Because the fights literally go for I think if you do, so you've got the undercard, then the prelims.
Yep.
You're looking at I think it's 10 fights all up.
Right.
So you're looking at 3 or 4 hours minimum. Minimum.
Okay.
So you get but you're right though, it was a bit I wish we could have seen more of John Jones because we haven't seen him in so long.
Right.
So yes, that is when I yelled "Holy Schnitz."
Well done.
In my lounge room. Got that winning taste right now. Schnitz, handcrafted schnitzel, made fresh and made just for you. Now, after the break, we're going to preview the round. We're going to get to your text, all that good stuff. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. And don't forget, this Friday, Bloke, myself, Guru, Timmy and Maddie will be at the Riverina Hotel in Wagga Wagga. So make sure to get down. We've got a live show at 6 p.m. Come say hi, introduce yourself. We'd love to meet the community. On top of that, we have a collaboration merch drop on Monday at 6 p.m. with Ringers Western. So this Monday coming, 6 p.m., limited supply. We've got truckers' hats. We've got work shirts. We've never done these before. That's Monday, 6 p.m. On top of all that, in every single celebrations in New South Wales and Queensland, Bloke Lager is now on special. You can get it for as low as $53. But Smithy, we got some text there, mate.
Mate, we've got plenty, and I'll ask you a couple of these ones. G'day, Smithy and the Beak. What are your thoughts on the Titans naming Kieran Foran, even though it's obvious he'll miss the next few games with injury? I think the coach has come out and said no, he won't be playing. I think we've got that now. Jaden Campbell has been named to play in the halves. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's really interesting. It's interesting, first of all, that he was named. Is it to take pressure off Campbell, the hype? But then we found out anyway a day later. Look, really interesting, because the question with Campbell was, we all know what in attack. He's sweet. He's good to go. We all know that. One of the best attacking players, in my opinion, with ball in hand. Super electric. The question is he only a fullback due to his size in defence? I think we're going to find out. What is he like defensively in the front line? And if he is... Let's say he's good in defence in the front line. Let's say that happens. All of a sudden, that contract goes up a couple $100,000.
Yes.
Because he's no longer just a fullback. He could be a six at a club.
Yep.
So that's what are your thoughts on it?
Utility value. Utility value. It's, you look at someone like a Brandon Smith who can play multiple positions. Yeah. It just, clubs are always looking for these types of players who can fill different roles. Sure, the big money goes to the guys playing in those key positions like a 1 or a 7, 9 and 6, who are the top echelon of the playing group. But when you have utility value, when you can play as a 1 or a centre or a half, even fill in as a 9 or a 14, there's so many. It opens up so many opportunities to play anywhere. To play at various clubs, and your value skyrockets.
I got a bit of a theory, considering, and Smithy, you can shoot this down because it's probably stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway. I honestly reckon, with the way the game has changed in regards to HIAs, the speed of it, the amount of people that are getting taken off, is surely the numbers are way more than they used to be.
Yep.
It's almost like a starting 14 now rather than a starting 13, because...
Oh, absolutely. Like the 14 is on. I know he doesn't run on the field to start the game, but he's pretty much as important as any other player wearing 1 to 13 on their backs.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like the 14, the guy that you bring off the bench as a utility. And mate, you could say the other players on the bench too. You look at all the teams that have won competitions over the last 5 or 6 years. Their bench is almost as good as their starting players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you look at it this way. The bench players for those premiership sides, if you sent them to any other club, they'd be starting players.
Look at your Melbourne Storm 2020.
Yep.
They were all marquee signings out of the clubs.
Yep.
Matter of fact, I'd go as far to say is that the only difference, when we were coming through in the little amount I played, it was almost like you've got your best starting 13, and then the guys on the bench, they're good, but they're not as good as the starting 13.
Yep.
I'd make the argument today, it's not actually about who's better. It's about who suits what role better.
That's right.
So you've got your battler that may start, that gets to the grindy work, and you've got a guy on the bench who is a different player. He's really explosive.
Yep.
And so that's why he's on the bench. Not because he's not as good. He's better at explosiveness.
Well, perfect example is Harry Grant.
Yeah.
Played a handful of games off the bench for the Melbourne Storm last year, and the entire Origin series for Queensland.
Yeah.
Ben Hunt started, Harry Grant off the bench. Now, that's not saying Ben Hunt's a better 9 than Harry Grant.
Yeah,
it's just saying that it's suited to that role. So the guy that you take off the field and is replaced with the guy off the bench is just as good.
Now, look, I know all the listeners wanted me to skim past this, but that's not going to happen. Not today. Not on my watch. Brizzy Broncos with a famous round 1 win over the Penrith Panthers.
Yes.
What'd you make of this game, mate?
Oh, look, I was really impressed with the Broncos. It's no mean feat going down to Penrith and getting a win, although they've lost. Well, they lost the World Club Challenge. I know they were missing a couple of their big-name players, and they lost a couple last year, so it's been a fortress for them. The last 3 seasons, they've lost, 5 games?
Yeah, like nothing.
Yeah. Very few games over the last few seasons in particular. But the thing that impressed me most was their defence.
Oh, massive.
To be put under the pressure that they were put under at stages through that game, and to be able to turn the Panthers away was just fantastic. It's what we've seen from them early last year, though. Now, I don't want to, I don't want to get you offside here, Kempy, but we did see similar things last year, and I remember vividly talking about the Broncos and their early season form, and the thing that impressed me most about them was their defence, particularly their goal line defence. They seem to have found this new sort of resilience or energy when they're defending their line, and they were able to turn teams away. So it's a part of their game that they were good at last year, early in the season as well. But you can't take anything away from them. Going down to Penrith and winning the way they did was super impressive. A lot of people last year were saying, look, they've underachieved, not making the finals, and absolutely they underachieved. Like they were top 4 with 6 rounds to go.
Yeah.
So they should have been there. They weren't. I'm sure they would have had some fairly honest conversations over this preseason about expectations around their performances, and no better way to start than knocking off the reigning premiers at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. They did fall off a cliff at the end of last year. I will say there's a positive in the fact that there were a bit of whispers or rumours that, and I mean, they're probably pretty founded because we saw what young players said in public. But the good thing for the Broncos is that they fell off a cliff, and if there was unrest within the playing group and they weren't back together and everything moving forward, then they wouldn't have come out and played the way they did round 1. They would have came out and got absolutely, torched.
Yep.
Now, the positive is that hopefully the playing group is back together on the same page. Mm-hmm. Now it's about, as a young playing group, that's great and all, but it's a long season. These standards that you've set them. Yeah. So you have to keep them.
Yeah. Back it up.
Yeah.
And I was talking, I mentioned earlier the same sort of topic with the Dolphins. Like, you can any team in this competition can come out and be a flash in the pan and win a one-off game, right? But if you want to be taken seriously in the NRL when you're playing at the elite level, back up those good performances with another one. That's the challenge that they should be setting each other now. And I'm sure guys like Patrick Carrigan and Payne Haas and Kevy Walters, of course, being the coach, but those senior players in the competition, in their team, Adam Reynolds, they'll be challenging those younger players to say, hey, boys, like, great win, let's enjoy the victory, but hey, when we return to training for our round 2 match, which is against the Cowboys, which is going to be a huge game Friday night at Suncorp, hey, boys, let's back it up. Let's not just be, one-offers and come out and get up for a game that it's not hard to get up for. You're playing the reigning premiers, every team is going to be up for them.
Yep.
It's another huge test for us. We're playing the Cowboys. They were prelim finalists last year, and could have easily been in the grand final. We need to back it up with another strong performance.
And when you really watch that game, the Broncos have plenty of improvement left in them.
Yeah.
Costly errors at the end of the game, drop ball after drop ball. They had that game in, you know what I mean? Corey Oates, Selwyn Cobbo. Holy heck.
Corey Oates, Big Gary.
Oh, wow.
He was having an outstanding game, and then he's
just went Barry Crocker, last 20.
He forgot how to catch the football.
Oh, no. The great Oatesy.
And I'm like, oh, no, mate, don't ruin this good performance. Look, he was fantastic.
He was fantastic. Some of the carries he does are the bravest carries you can do.
Mate, yeah. Great.
And so that's the positive. It sounds like critical of the Broncos, but it's actually a positive because they can go another gear.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they came and played the best game in the world and beat the Premiers. They played really good in defence.
Reece Walsh back as well to fullback. So be keen to see how he slots in at the back. Cobbo was pretty good. He had some solid involvements.
Just the error count that he
errors. That was going to say, mate. Yeah. Like he got bundled into touch, I think twice. Twice. And had a couple of drop balls. The one at the end.
Oh, mate, my head nearly exploded.
Oh, mate, I was actually sitting there thinking, mate, what is Kempy doing right now? What is Kempy doing in his lounge room right now? Because my heart was in my mouth.
I tell you what, you know what I was doing? I was in a motel in Armidale, screaming at the TV. It's some things I can't say.
The locals were thinking, mate, who's this madman that's come to our town?
Mate, driven up here to watch
the Broncos.
Yeah, what's going on? Mate, but the good thing about Selwyn is that he's just going to brush it off.
That's right.
And keep going forward. He's so talented. Oh, he's just like for how young he is, his physicality, it's so impressive.
That's the pleasing part of his game is that for a young man, and I know he's not the smallest bloke getting around, so he's got a bit of size behind him, but still, like for a young fella to get out there and just go about it the way he does with particularly the physicality and the way he plays that's a good sign for him. He's just got to try and minimise those errors, and he'll grow as a player in time.
Now we're going to head to a break. After the break, send your texts in because we've got a bunch of texts to get through, but we want more. You can also call in 1300 01 1170 after the break. We're going to preview the round. We're going to talk about the biggest match of the round, and we're also going to give you what we consider our sure thing. See you on the other side. We're proud to say we have a new sponsor here on SEN called Game Day Squad. Create, coach, and compete in fantasy footy. Pleased to say their founder, Callum Stone, is on the line. How you going, Callum?
Thanks for having me on.
How are you, mate?
Doing well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, mate. Gotcha. Hey, tell us a little bit about your background and how you started Game Day Squad.
Yeah, of course. So Game Day Squad is a new, unique Australian fantasy sport platform that I think is offering a revolutionary way to play fantasy sports. And our journey started back when we were all about 5. When we were all growing up, we wanted to be footy players. But as we got a little bit older, we realised we weren't going to make it. So we ended up doing other things and eventually found ourselves at uni in love with fantasy sports. So when we had a bit of time in the lockdown a couple of years ago, a couple of us came together and we dreamed up the way to build the ultimate fantasy football platform, and here we are today.
And fantasy football in America is absolutely huge. Did you take a lot of inspiration and were you involved in anything over in America in regards to playing the drafts things over there, or is it something that kind of you've been focused more on Australia?
So I first started playing Aussie rules and rugby league fantasy when I was a kid and then through uni. But over time, I've started to love the NFL and the NBA. And I don't know what came first. It was the fantasy playing fantasy, or if it was me just enjoying the sports. But yeah, now I'm addicted to it. I'm loving the NBA at the moment, and I'm already missing the NFL because of the fantasy side of things.
All right, Callum, what makes your platform different to all the other fantasy sport programs out there?
Yeah, so Game Day Squad, we're a little bit different. One of the things that we do differently is that our players actually come in the form of digital trading cards. And unlike a traditional fantasy sport platform where you can jump on and select from any player at the start of the season to build your team, in Game Day Squad, if you don't actually own the digital trading card of the player you want to play, then you can't actually play them. So it's all about finding who you want to play. Then you have to jump onto the transfer market and buy, sell, and trade with other coaches and trying to get the players you want. Because if you wanted someone on the weekend who's going to have a big game, you've got to go out and find them. It's not just about picking them. And the other thing we do quite differently is that we're a dynasty fantasy sport platform, meaning that our teams don't actually reset at the end of the year. So once you go out and you find those players you want, you actually keep them forever. So going out and getting someone like a Sammy Walker now, if you get his card, you don't just have him for this year, you have him for the next 10, 15 years or however long he wants to play.
Wow. Okay, so you're almost like building your own club to a degree.
Yeah, that's how we see it. We like to see it as sort of being your head selector and coach of your own team, your own squad. So yeah, for those of us who love fantasy sport and even those who just play regularly, it's adding an extra dimension to it as well.
And where can we and our listeners find out more about the Game Day Squad?
Yeah, so we have an app on the App Store and on the Google Play Store, and also at gamedaysquad.com.au. We've got all the information, so you can jump on, read all about us, and get started today. So even though it's round 2 with the NRL, we've got it set up that anyone joining can still participate and still get involved in all the competitions that we do have and won't be at a disadvantage. So yeah, still lots of time for everyone to jump on and get stuck in for a big year.
Anna, mate, you'd be all over the stats. Who do you reckon's trending as a bit of a smoky as a Dally M this year?
Oh, good question. I'd love to say Nico going back-to-back, but then obviously with his injury at the start, I'm not too sure. I lean more on the AFL side of things. So I look at NRL basically just through the NRL fantasy lens. I could tell you about the AFL, or I could tell you who might be good in the NRL fantasy. But
Right.
What about the right man for that?
What about a Brownlow then? What about a Brownlow, Callum?
I think Andy Brayshaw.
Oh, really?
Prime for a big year, yeah. I think he was terrific last year.
Yep.
I can see him going one better.
Easy gun.
Mate, I honestly have no idea about AFL, so I'll agree with you. Yes, I agree.
He's a gun, mate.
He's a gun. Yeah. He's a gun. He's going to win the Brownlow. Is that what you call it, Brownlow?
Yep.
Mate, Game Day Squad. Create, coach, and compete in fantasy footy. Be the coach and win. Play now.
Thanks, Callum.
Thanks so much for joining us, mate, and good luck with it. We'll be definitely checking her out.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Callum Stone, brand new sponsor, Game Day
Squad.
Game Day Squad. I love it. I love the fact that you can build your own, like a club.
Yeah, like he said, dynasty. Like once you buy that player, you've got him forever.
Mm. No, I love that. And also the trading cards as well. Takes you back to when you were a kid. You got trading cards. So, massive good luck to Callum and the boys. Great idea. And thank you for coming on board and supporting the Captain's Run. They support us, guys, so support them. Now, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we're going to preview the round. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cam Smith. Make sure to follow us at SEN League on Instagram, at Captain's Run NRL on Twitter. Hey, boys, enjoying the show. Just seeing if Cam Smith still follows Hawthorn in the AFL.
Of course I do. Hawkies.
The Hawkies?
Mate, Hawkies, man, all the way.
How are they looking?
Mate, they're looking a lot better than they were last year. So it's been a couple of lean years for the Hawthorn boys.
Okay.
And the Hawthorn faithful.
Because didn't they go three-peat?
Yeah, they did this. Yeah, going back a while, mate.
Yeah,
going back a while, and then made a fourth grand final and got beaten. But well, I was lucky. There was some good times during that little period.
4 grand finals, holy.
Big changes though. Like they were a side. They're a football club that put together a squad and a team that just a little bit like Penrith, right? They all come together at the right time. Were playing in their prime of their career, playing some great footy. Won 3 straight. Got to another grand final and got beaten. But, a couple of lean years, mate. I'm hoping they're... Come on, boys. Hawkies.
Come on, boys.
Back to your best, 2023.
Now, after the break, we begin our Round 2 preview. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. And remember, you can catch up on anything you missed from today's show via our podcast, which you can download now on the SEN app, or subscribe to the Captain's Run on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Also, call in and have your say. 1300 01 1170 or give us a text 0457 736 736. Give us a follow on Twitter, Captain's Run NRL, and also make sure to follow us on at SEN League on Instagram and TikTok. But let's get into the game, Smithy. Bluebet Stadium, Panthers versus Rabbitohs, a couple of years ago, grand final rematch. Prelim rematch. Panthers have basically knocked the Rabbitohs out. I think it's like 3 years running.
Well, there's no feeling lost between these two clubs, that's for sure.
None at all.
So they'll be pretty fired up for this one, particularly Penrith, I believe. I think they'll be stinging out of that first round loss. And I know they said, the loss in the World Club Challenge, it was a bit of a World Club Challenge, but they would have wanted to win that one.
Mm-hmm.
So out of that first up loss, I think a bit would have been spoken about their form at home as well, not wanting to continue these run of losses. If they lose this one, it's 3 straight at Penrith, which they haven't done for a long, long time. So I think I'm expecting a very different looking Penrith Panthers side against the Rabbitohs this time around. One forced change, of course. Sorensen's out, concussion. He's replaced by Matty Eisenhuth. But a few changes for the Rabbits. Totola, Jai Arrow are both going to miss the game. Latrell, they said he's okay. He got through the session, I think, this morning.
Yep.
Knee was strapped up, but he got through it. So that's a great thing for the Rabbits, him being in the side. But I just think Penrith, I think Penrith have got a lot to play for in this game. They'll come out and win.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think the Penny Panthers have got a lot to play for. And, the last week was kind of... I've seen Nathan Cleary disappointed, plenty of times because he's a competitor.
Yep.
But it was probably the first time I'd seen him angry. He seemed quite angry at the way they'd lost. And I love to see that from a guy like Cleary.
Frustrated?
Yeah, and just really disappointed in, the way that they played, the way they've turned up for a second game in a row at Penrith.
Yep.
And I love to see that from a club captain where it matters if you lose at home.
It's high standards, eh?
Yeah.
Well, it matters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you're playing. It matters all the time. Like they needed to go out and play, and obviously, Nathan would understand that they were far from their best, and it's well below the standards that they expect from themselves, and from each other. Hence, the words that Salmon Luai had after the match, which a lot of people spoke about, but it happens. Every game that happens.
Literally every game.
Not ideal, the location and where it happened. There just so happened to be a camera there. You could see actually one of the boys, it might have been Matty Eisen, who
stood in front of it.
Come around there and just said, "Hey boys, just let's wait till we get inside."
Mm.
But that's just holding each other accountable for our actions, and all the best teams have those tough and difficult conversations.
I mean, you've got to. It would be bizarre if you didn't.
Well, if you let things slide, then no one improves. Individuals don't improve, and if the individuals don't improve, the teams don't improve. So, that's just they're in that position now, and they're dual premiership winners, consecutive premiership winners, because of that reason, is that they set high standards for each other.
Now, we've spoken about Cleary, but let's have a talk about Lockie Illes. He was outstanding last week.
Yeah.
Now, do you think? Look, I think they're missing too many of their, forwards to kind of get the win. But I got to say, what a great test for Lockie Illes. He goes to Shark Park. They get their first win in a very long time.
Yep.
Now he's going to Bluebet Stadium out of the Panthers. What an opportunity for the young fella.
Yeah, well, it's possibly the most difficult game on the road in all of the competition. You probably throw Melbourne in there as well. But at the moment, going out to Penrith is a very difficult one. But super impressed with his performance in round one. And you could see, his performances through last year, the way he built throughout the season, that, he's going to be a special half. He's going to be a special talent in our game. He's still got a lot to learn. He's only a young man. Great to see him bounce back. He had a bit of an off game last year. I think it was against the Dragons down at Wollongong when Demetrio, he threw the old hook out.
Got the captain cook.
Dragged him off the field, which in my opinion, I thought was a little bit unfair. I thought there was a couple of more experienced players that were playing not playing all that well either. But he was the one that copped the hook. But great to see the young fella bounce back. I know that would be so far from his mind. I just brought it back. I just brought it up to say it's great to see him bounce back. But it's been a long off season, and he's put a lot of work into his footy over the preseason. Played extremely well. Good test for him. Good test for him coming up against reigning premiers. Some quality halves on the other side of the field that he's matched up against too. I think he'll do a good job, but I just think the Panthers they'll be stinging off the last couple of matches that they played. Yeah,
for sure. And with Lockie Illes, what I loved about his game last week was he's no longer, obviously he's, second fiddle to Cody Walker. Cody Walker's a veteran, but he's no longer almost waiting for Cody Walker to say, can you do this or can you do this? He's saying, I've got something to offer.
Well, he's taking initiative.
Yeah.
And that comes through time on the park and a little bit of maturity with your football and as a person. But just feeling the confidence of, hey, listen, I've got things to offer this footy side. I'm going to go do it when I see the opportunity to do it.
Now, Combank Stadium, Eels versus Sharks, both teams coming off losses. Sean Russell comes into the wing for Isaac Lumi, and the Sharks, Wade Graham suspended, Jack Williams concussion, they're out. Connor Tracy and Royce Hunt, not bad replacements if I say so myself. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, fair replacements. But again, just missing some key players, the Sharkies, and Parramatta. They wouldn't have been happy with their game against the Storm, particularly their second half. I thought their first 40 was pretty
great.
Good. First 40 were great. I thought Josh Hodgson coming back from ACL injury was super impressive in his first 40 minutes. I'd like to see a little bit more from Brown, though. I just thought Dylan Brown was relatively quiet. When Parramatta are playing well, I just feel as though he's got much more involvement than what he did in round one. He's a great runner of the football. He's got lovely hands. He's got good combinations with his outside men, but he's a dangerous ball carrier.
Yeah.
So when he's a lot like Munster. When the ball goes to Munster, things happen. Things happen, and the other team, they're on high alert. The same for Dylan Brown. I think he just needs to get the ball in his hands a lot more than what he did last week. And they'll be keen to bounce back from that first up loss, particularly at home. They're at home again, round two. Sharkies will be desperate. I think we'll see a very different performance from them. But I think the Eels too good in this one.
Do you think Dylan Brown struggled with two things? Sean Lane not being outside him, so with confidence.
Yeah.
And then Hodgson being a new hooker and also being a much more willing to take control and run the ball compared to Reid Marnie.
Yeah.
You know, Reid Marnie's role at the Eels was just get the ball off the deck.
Yeah.
Whereas his role at Doggies is very different now, which is good to see. Do you think that affected Brown at all?
Or possibly. Hodgson being a much more dominant style player to Reid Marnie. And again, like we talk about time on the paddock and combinations, it takes time. Like no matter how much time you spend in the preseason out in the training field, and maybe a couple of preseason games in the trials, but it takes time for those combinations to build. I think having a dominant 9 there is great, but at the same time, when you know that you're a great runner of the football, you're a dangerous runner of the football, and if you want the ball, you need to get it.
Yeah.
Dylan Brown's he's not a rookie. He's been around for a long time. He's played Test football. I think he just needs to demand the ball when he wants it.
Okay. And the Sharkies, do you think it's just defence?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. That like when they were winning football games last year, like they ended up in the top 4. That wasn't a fluke. That was off the back of pretty stingy defence when they were working as a team. Everyone was on the same page defensively, working as a unit. No one trying to do it one out. I think that will be, well, it should be the message from Craig Fitzgibbon this week, which I think it will be. He's a very defensive-minded coach. I think that'll be what he pushes this week is to say, hey, listen, well, we're coming up against a side that they do have plenty of points in them, but we've got some strategies in place that we need to implement to stop that.
It's the Sharks are interesting. I think they missed over 50 tackles on the weekend.
Yeah, that's just not good enough at that level.
Yeah, which is so surprising because that's what they built their season on.
Yep, absolutely.
So hopefully they can sort it out because I think the Sharkies are in for a big year. I really do. Now, look, after the break, we come back and we preview the Queensland Derby and we also talk about the Roosters v the Warriors. Roosters looking to bounce back, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Make sure to give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok at SEN League and also on Twitter at Captain's Run NRL. But let's get into the big match of the round for me personally anyway, the Derby, Broncos versus Cowboys. Reece Walsh returns at fullback. And interesting, he's actually making his club debut, which is a great moment for Reece Walsh. Selwyn Cobbo to the wing. Arthur goes to 18th man. Cowboys, no changes to the 17 who beat the Raiders last week. How do you see this game playing out, Smithy?
This could be a classic. A few years back when Broncos and Cowboys used to play each other and it was always Golden Point. I don't know how that ended up that way, but it was just every time
game.
It was Golden Point. It was just it could be that way again. I'm leaning towards the Cowboys though, just because unchanged lineup from last week. They just snuck home against the Raiders, but I've got high hopes for the Cowboys this year.
That first half, they looked incredible.
Yeah, they look really good. Scotty Drinkwater, your man,
yep,
was outstanding. Tommy Dearden was great. Chad Townsend playing really well. Like all their players are playing really well. But they're coming up against the side that just beat the reigning premiers, and the Broncos are back at home. They played on the road, played a great game on the road last week. The trap that I guess the Broncos could fall into would be turning up or preparing this week thinking, wow, we beat Penrith. We'll beat anyone. But the importance of just enjoying the win and then putting it to bed and then moving on to the next opposition is vitally important, particularly for the Broncos. Just can't get carried away with one win. Especially this early in the competition. Fantastic that Reece Walsh is playing fullback. Really excited to see how he goes with the one jersey on his back. We spoke earlier about Cobbo going back to the wing. Mate, I've got the Cowboys in this one. I'm not prepared to say by a big margin, but I've got the Cowboys beating the Broncos.
It's really interesting because they're relatively similar squads in a similar... Yep. I mean, obviously, Cowboys are doing better because of our finals footy last year.
Yep, both relatively sort of young squads.
Got sevens that play similar-ish kind of footy.
Yep, experienced halves, leading the team around.
Gun silky fullbacks that are quite silky with the ball in hand.
Yep. But what are your thoughts?
Okay, look.
I don't think you're going to tip the Broncos, but just your preview of the match, how do you think it'll all play out?
Well, I am going to tip the Bronx.
Yes.
I'm going to take the Bronx
of course.
because I think the only reason I'm going to take the Bronx is because of their defence last week.
Okay.
And, the fact that they kept the
fair point.
Panthers to 12 points, whereas the Raiders, although I would say, the Cowboys, I thought their first half was the best half of any half in the round one.
Okay.
The fact that they allowed the Raiders to score 18 points in one half and basically lost the second half.
Yep.
I think that the Broncos can get the job done because of obviously they're on the back of their defence. And, they basically controlled the match against Panthers. It took the last 10 minutes with a bunch of different errors for the Broncos to allow Panthers back into the game. But if Corey Oates doesn't drop that first ball, and I love Big Oatesy, but Broncos go on to potentially score again, or at the very least, just dominate field position.
Yep.
So I reckon Broncos get the job done. But it's going to be really interesting to see how Todd Payten handles the Cowboys win because great win.
Yeah.
Great signs, but also bad signs.
Yes.
It's
look, I don't know Todd Payten well, but just talking to people involved with the Cowboys, and speaking with Jonathan Thurston, knowing Todd Payten, like he will be onto him. He's the type of guy that he won't sort of sweep anything under the carpet after that win. Win's great, sure, but I don't think he would have let them get away with that second half, that 40 minutes that you said where they let Canberra back into the game. They nearly stole the game off them. It was only for a Chad Townsend field goal that got it home for them up there in Townsville. So I think he'll have them well prepared. I feel as though it'll be almost like a loss for them in round one, if you know what I mean. With the way they reviewed that match to say, hey, boys, like, this isn't good enough. Yeah, sure, we got to win, but they would have treated it more like a performance that they weren't happy with. And I'd like to think when you got experienced guys like Val Holmes, Peter Hiku, Chad Townsend in there, they would have been on top of the players as well, saying, "Hey, look, great win, but we need to be much better than that if we want to do something in this competition." The matchup I'm really excited for though is the Sixers.
Yeah,
Ezra Mann was really good last week.
Yeah.
Some of the hits he put on, he's a chunky little fella,
mate. And vice versa. The strength Dearden had in attack, he was breaking tackles.
Yeah. Loves running the footy.
They're both like really strong around the hips.
Yeah, because
they're little fellas.
They're not huge men.
Yeah.
Like in today's game.
Oh, mate.
Like they're both under 6 foot. They'd be roughly, I don't know, what, 90 kilos, 92 kilos?
Max, I'd say, yeah.
Like heavy, but I've actually loved the matchup of those two young fellas going toe-to-toe on Friday.
Absolutely. So, great game. Cannot wait to watch it. Now, the thing with the Cowboys is they've set the bar so high. They've shown round one, the first half, a completion rate of 90%.
Yep.
And silky footy like that.
Yep.
So imagine what they could do by the end of the year. Very, very exciting. Now let's head to Roosters versus the Warriors. Allianz Stadium. Joey Manu returns at centre. Drew Hutchison moves to the bench. Matt Lodge is out. I think he's got a face fracture, basically a divot or something like that.
No, he had a head clash.
Yep. Replaced by Fletcher Baker at prop, with Jared Warrior-Hargreaves still on the sidelines. Warriors are unchanged after their win over the Knights last week. How do you see this playing out, Smithy?
Joey Manu, massive in. I think they missed him a lot last week. I know Hutchison, he was out there doing his best. Drew, he's an experienced player, but having a guy that is a genuine centre will make a huge difference to their footy. I think they just missed him in like some crucial moments, I believe. Like he done so much for them with the ball last year. It was Tedesco and Joey Manu they were combining for like ridiculous amounts of running meters last year. Got him out of a lot of trouble. Or if they needed an inspirational run, he'd come up with it, or an inspirational play. Huge in for them. This is 15th versus 5th. You would have thought it would have been the other way around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You would have thought Roosters would have been sitting in the top 8, but the Warriors are 5th. Good on them. They had a strong win in windy Wellington against the Knights. I think the Roosters will be too good for the Warriors. But if they are to lose, wow. Panic stations at Bondi.
Oh, wow. Really interesting clash because I think that, put it this way, and I spoke about this earlier the week. So you've got the Tigers and the Bulldogs that really went aggressive in the market and had these marquee signings, and everyone's talking about Tigers and Bulldogs and how great they were. And, it's going to take time for them to gel, but they were quite disappointing on the weekend.
Yep.
Whereas the Warriors are going out of sight, out of mind. Not only had they a massive clean-out, they've got a new coach.
Yeah.
And they put on a performance where they kept the Knights to 12 points, 20-12. I like the start of, because it's clearly a rebuild.
Yes.
And so that's great signs that you can open up round one, keep a side to 12 points or less, and get the win.
Yeah.
And so this is a real opportunity for the Warriors to go, okay, we've beaten the Knights, but how about we test ourselves against one of the better sides in the comp?
Well, and you know what? I think they'll just look to the way that the Dolphins took on the Roosters and just didn't hold back. And they have nothing to lose, because there'll be very few people expecting them to come over to Sydney and knock off the Roosters. Very few people. So they just need to back themselves and just go, hey boys, let's take it to these blokes.
With the Roosters, now it's only one game, but the thing with the Roosters the last few years is that, and Tom, our producer, he'll be listening closely, is like, I feel like every year they're trying to find out what kind of footy they play. Whereas I think the guy like Penrith Panthers and Melbourne Storm, they kind of are set at the start of the year. They've got Panthers footy, Storm footy.
Yep.
And I wonder whether, is this a tactic from Trent Robinson where he just builds into years and he sees how it's all going? Or are they really struggling to find what is their identity post back-to-back wins?
Yeah, well, I'm not too sure, mate. To be honest, I'm not too sure, because, you need to be at training and you need to be around the club to know what's going on. But, with Brandon Smith joining the club, he's a very unique style of player. So to try and get the best out of him, I guess, you're going to have to allow him to play his style of football as well, rather than say, hey, listen, mate, when you come here, this is the way you need to play. Because, as I said, it's a unique style of footy, and you don't want to sort of hem a guy in like Brandon Smith and say you need to play this way, because I don't feel as though that's going to get the best out of him. So, it's probably, the other players adjusting too to having a guy like Brandon Smith playing in the footy side in such a key position. And then you got a young fellow like Sammy Walker still learning. And again, he's quite a unique type of footballer as well, where, he grew up, playing in a team and a game plan and a style of football which was very sort of free and flowing, and just go out there and play what you see type of thing. There wasn't a whole lot of structure. There wasn't a whole lot of set plays and all that sort of stuff. It was just like, hey mate, if you feel as though you need to run the ball there, run the ball there. If you feel like you want to kick the ball on play two, kick the ball on play two. If you want to run backwards to try and put the defence off, run backwards. That was the type of stuff that was happening. Yeah, when he was playing his football in the lower grades. But I think they, looking at their lineup, it's
crazy.
It's again, it's a great footy side. Once they do click, they'll be very hard to beat. And it's no matter who they play, they'll be very hard to beat.
All the Roosters need to do, in my opinion, is make finals footy. Just a top 8.
Just get there?
Just get there. And I know that you would rather a consistent year for sure.
Yep.
But I think their squad is so good that they can go on a run. All you got to do is look at last year. It was just that disaster game where everyone got sent off, 2 HIAs.
Yeah.
They probably win that game if Crichton and Tedesco don't get HIA'd off.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to head to a break, and then after the break, we're going to continue previewing the Dolphins. Can they back it up? Raiders, can they get the win? Storm versus the Doggies. We'll see you on the other side. Redcliffe, Dolphins versus the Raiders. How do you see? We've got youngster Mason Teague has been named to make his debut and replacing the great Ray Stone. You've got Jordan Rapana. He's out. He's replaced by Albert Hopewadi. How do you see this playing out?
Have we got a? Do we know the update on Ray Stone? It's not the knee injury again, is it?
No, it's not an ACL. I don't think.
Good.
I think it's a PCL. Him sort of
clutching at the knee, and he looked as though like he was frustrated. He may have done it again, but anyway, that's great news that it's not the ACL. The Dolphins. I'm all over the Dolphins at the moment.
I'm on the bandwagon.
I'd love to see them go 2 from 2. Wouldn't that be? Imagine after round 2,
they're 2 from 2.
Look at the table, and Dolphins are sitting first.
It would be incredible.
Just and awesome.
The special thing for the Dolphins too is this is kind of I guess, pessimistic thinking from the outside looking in, but if they get 2 wins out of the way, like for the whole season, you're bound to jag 4 or 5 more.
Yeah, a couple more, yep.
And then all of a sudden you go, well, we don't have to worry about the spoon. I know that's very negative thinking, but
yes.
it's still to jag 2 wins.
Oh, mate, I completely understand what you're saying because that would be in the back of the mind of everyone at the Dolphins is not wanting to be wooden spooners first year. There's no doubt about that. I was just really super impressed with their game, and again, like the challenge is to get up for this game and play well again. Particularly guys like Branko Lee and Tessie New, who were very good on the weekend. Young fellow Isaiah Katoa playing in the 6 jersey, only 19. Sort of getting an understanding and getting his head around the grueling season that is the NRL season, where you don't get any let up. Like it doesn't matter who you're playing, where they are. It's a difficult 80 minutes you'll play every week. Even if you win most of your matches, they're not easy. Like you don't just turn up there and run through the opposition. Like it's pretty hard going. But when they're led by Jesse Bromwich, Marshall King, Felice Kafusi, Kenny Bromwich, it's I'd like to think that they'll be up for it again. I really do. Although Canberra, they just went down by 1 point to the Cowboys, and I know their first half wasn't great. They weren't really in the match at all, but it was a tough performance. It's real. It's hard to go up to North Queensland early in the season and get a victory. It would have been muggy as they would have been sucking in the big ones. Just trying to get through that 80 minutes of football. But they're heading north again. Difficult thing to do, just get on the road early and get wins. But I think Ricky Stewart will. I reckon he would have spoke to his players about their performance and saying that, hey, look, that was one that got away from us. We had every opportunity to win that game. Like, look how well we played in the second half. There's a footy side that a lot of people are saying are going to do really well. Talking about the Cowboys.
Yeah.
We can't be too hard on ourselves, but we need to be better. And let's go and do that against the Dolphins.
Mate, before we keep talking about the Dolphins, we just got a text from a bloke named John, and he said, does everyone go for lunch? Because this is the most boring show I've ever listened to. So, thanks, Johnny.
Hey, good on you, John.
Good on you, John, mate.
Well
You're
done.
listening, so that's one listener. Yeah. To the Dolphins, you know what I loved heading into it, the game? And look, I still picked the Roosters, so I'm not going to pretend to be, hindsight hero.
Yes.
When Anthony Milford, got dropped from the side, and Jesse Bromwich was doing the press conference.
Yep.
Very easy for Jesse to be politically correct and not want to put anyone offside.
Mm-hmm.
He was quite strong in his message to, we need to be better if you're getting dropped and we need, people helping our halves. The message was strong.
Yes.
And I really like to see that because he's not letting the fact that he may put someone offside dictate what the standards will be at the club.
That's right.
And when I see things like that, I go, you know what? Maybe we are. Even me, when they signed the Bromwich brothers and Kofusi, some of these older players, I understood that they would bring experience. But I think that was a really good example of, this is what you're buying when you get a guy like Jesse Bromwich.
Yeah, you buy experience, not only on the field but off the field as well. And that's where the standards, I believe, are set. It's well and truly before you get on the paddock and start training and start playing football matches. It's about the conversations that you have within the locker room, in your meetings, and you talk about expectations of what it will mean to be a first grade player at that club. No matter what club you're playing at, whether it be the Dolphins, a new franchise in the NRL, or the Penrith Panthers, who have won the last 2 comps. It's about having expectations on everyone to say, hey, listen, if you want to be a Panther or a Dolphin or a Raider, whoever it is, these are the standards that you must set all the time. Because if you don't, it's pretty clear you will not be in the side on the weekend.
Yeah. It's it's good signs. Good signs for the Dolphins. Hopefully, look, I want the Raiders to win too. So hopefully it's a great clash. Let's get to Storm versus the Doggies. 7:30, Amy Park, the return to Amy Park. Wishart replaces Cam Munster at 5'8". Penne comes onto the bench. Xavier Coates named to play despite injuring his shoulder last week. Doggies, no changes to the 17 who lost the Seagulls last week. What are your thoughts on this game, mate?
Xavier Coates has been named.
Yeah, they were talking 2-3 weeks when it happened.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's an injury up to like what they call it, the SC joint.
SC joint, yeah. Which
is down here where the collarbone meets the clavicle.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Not the AC.
Okay.
The AC's up in the shoulder. Yeah, it's down in here. So yeah, pretty annoying position to have an injury because that will just get knocked every training session, every game.
Oh.
But they've named him, so well done to Big Xavier on the wing. Tyron Wishart named at 6 in replacement for Cam Munster. Tyron Wishart, he's a wonderful player. He played about 4 different positions for the Storm last year and did a really good job. I think he's a guy that he's really impressed Craig Bellamy over the last couple of seasons with his involvement and his willingness to play wherever he's needed in this Storm team. Taking on the Doggies, no changes. No changes to the 17 that got beat last week. So Cameron Ciraldo sticking with the same lineup that he went with against Manly. Look, they were well below their best. I think there's some high expectations on the Doggies to do a lot better this year. And I'm a person that has those higher expectations on them. They've recruited some quality players to their footy side. You'd expect them to go out and play better this week than what they did last week. In fairness, in their defence, I thought the sin binning of Kyle Flanagan it was rotten timing and it was a pretty ordinary call.
Outrageous.
It's pretty ordinary call.
Outrageous.
He hardly laid a finger on Tommy, who should get a Logie for that performance, just quietly. But it's just, boys, like,
Come on.
Like, you can't make calls like that. And we've seen the significance of that call.
Well, they were in the game.
It did to the game.
They were in the game.
And look, they may not have gone on to win the game, but that's not the point. While he was off the field in that 10-minute period, they scored 2. They had 2 tries scored against them, and pretty much took the game away from them.
Yeah,
which is what happened. But anyway, let's not beat on about that. I'd like to think that they're going to be much better than what they were in round 1, but the Storm at home, you can't back against them. No. I just can't.
I agree, mate. I agree. Just quickly with the Doggies, I think they're in a bit of a strange situation with their spine because they've got Hayes Perham there, who, good solid ball runner, really explosive. Ball playing, probably needs a little bit time to work on it.
Yep.
But it's almost like, Critter's going to come in and play that role.
Yeah.
And then you've got Matty Burton, who I feel like they were hoping that he would be an organising half, but I don't think he's suited to that.
No.
He's played his best footy in centre position, and I still think he's a better 6 than centre, but when he's centre, he can be free and just play what's in front of him.
Yeah.
And I think that at the moment, the Dogs, it may take a little bit longer than expected because not only is Birdo, potentially not going to be that organising half.
Yep.
Obviously, Flano needs to step up, but then also you've got a place, and there's no disrespect to Hayes Perham. Maybe he goes on to keep that spot.
Yes.
But at the moment, it's looking like it's there until Critter arrives.
Yep.
And so I wonder, do they need to sort their spine out sooner rather than later?
What's Matt Burton's preferred position though?
Be interesting. Be interesting to see what he would prefer to play.
We might have to get him on the show.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he put his hand up to play 6. I'm sure he did.
I like him
in any way. I think Kyle Flanagan really needs to step up and take that role. I know he's only a young man, but he's not new to the game. Like he's been around for quite some time now. He's played a fair bit of footy. Just needs to take control of this footy side along with Reid Marnie. I think he'll have much more influence over this footy side this week. But I'm backing the Storm. As I said, like it's very hard to back against this team in Melbourne. Almost unbeatable. I'm going Storm for the win.
I'm going Storm too. Now, after the break, we'll continue the round preview. Leichhardt, Tigers versus Knights. I mean, what a game that's going to be. Both teams desperate for the win. Then the Dragons make their first game for the year against the Titans. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Let's get straight into the games. Tigers versus Knights. Api Coruscant has been named to start. Joe Offengalway starts at prop. Alex Twal moves to the bench. Recruit Bateman still remains on the sideline. Dane Gaga returns for the at centre for the Knights. Adam Elliott out with a groin injury. How do you see this game playing out, Smithy?
Tigers at Leichhardt again on a Sunday. Oh, mate, I remember playing the Tigers at Leichhardt. It was almost the hardest place to play. So hard. They always seem to play like a different footy side, although last week they got beat there. So there goes my theory. But I just remember just going there, and it's just an uncomfortable place to play. Huge crowds all the time, and which is great at these suburban grounds.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, I think they'll win.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they'll win. The Knights, and we spoke about the Knights last week, talking about their roster and their lineup on paper. Impressive footy side, really impressive footy side. And again, it's not easy going to New Zealand playing the Warriors, but I just thought they were a little bit disappointing. Both teams losing first up. So I'm going to go to the West Tigers, particularly if Appy starts. Particularly if Appy starts. And playing at Leichhardt, it's a very hard place to go and win footy games, as I said earlier. And so I'm going to lean with the Tigers with very little confidence.
Mate, I'm going to go Knights, but also with very little confidence.
Yeah, okay.
Look, I think that Appy starting is almost a game changer, but the Knights, I don't know, maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I feel like it's there. The game, it's going to come. We're going to see that game.
Yeah.
Ponga, he played pretty well last week. He had made 11 tackles, only one miss in attack. I think he had a couple try assists. So I look at it and I go, okay, he's firing. He's keen to go. Lockie Miller had 11 tackle breaks. I think he ran for about 200 metres. I just think this might be the game where the Knights fire up. I hope anyway. I hope. But if the thing is the Knights I can see winning by a little bit, whereas the Tigers, if they click, I can see them winning by a substantial margin. Okay. But I just don't know whether the Tigers are going to click yet because they seem so disjointed the other day, super just disjointed.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm going to go the Knights, but I'm not very confident. Now, what do you think about Dragons v the Titans, 6:15, Nostrata, Jubilee Stadium. Bird starts at lock. Hunt is punted in the halves by Sullivan. Moses Mbai starts at hooker. Jacob Little coming off the bench. Toby Couchman has been named to make his debut off the bench. And then with the Titans, no change to the 17 that beat the Tigers last week. Kieran Foran has been named despite suffering a knee, but we've found out whilst on the show that it'll be Campbell
playing in the halves. Jaden Campbell.
Jaden Campbell playing in the halves.
Yep, so he'll play in the halves. Kieran Foran missing. Just I guess wondering what impact that will have, Kieran Foran not being there. Having spoken to a few people involved with the Titans over the preseason, they've been so happy with the way Kieran's come in and bought into the club and what they're about, and just the confidence that he's brought to the squad, and I guess having that confidence that he shares or has given to those younger players has made them into a very different footy side. Whether that now has an effect with him not being there, and after speaking with Benny Hunt earlier in the show, Kempy, he sounds pretty confident in the team that they're putting out for round one. They've had the opportunity to sit back last week and just watch the footy and particularly watch the Titans game closely and have an understanding of what they're going to face this weekend. I'm going to back the Titans, though.
Really?
In a close one.
Okay.
In a close one. Because, as I said at the start of the show, really impressed with the way that the Titans hung in there early last week. They were put under a fair bit of pressure defensively last week. They hung in, and they come away with a good victory away from home. I think they can back that up again this weekend.
I'm going the Dragons, mate.
Oh, the Drags.
Yeah, I think a Foran-less Titans.
Okay. Yep.
I don't think they hang in if Foran isn't there on the field with them.
Yeah, right.
But I do think if Campbell can, come and kill it,
yes,
all of a sudden there's a bunch of points in them. Now, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we're going to wrap the show up. And, basically our final tips for the round. See you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Now, we have a brand new little segment. It's called a Sure Thing Nomination. It's perfect for you guys to absolutely spray us when we get it wrong. Sure Hire, the temporary works expert, surehire.com.au, Australia's most complete shoring, propping and traffic product range. It says producer here, producer range. I'm like Anchorman. I just read what's in front of me.
Yes.
Product range, call 1300 Sure Hire. Now, who's your sure thing of the week, Smithy?
My sure thing of the week this week, Kempy, is the Roosters, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they'll bounce back from their first up loss, playing the Warriors at home. I think they'll get the job done Saturday, 2 o'clock. Yours?
Mate, my sure thing is the Melbourne Storm in Melbourne. Extremely hard to beat. Yes. Doggies have got a bit to go before they get up to that level, and I think the Storm win, and I think it's a solid win. Thank you all for listening. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple and Spotify, The Captain's Run. Follow us at SEN League on Instagram and TikTok. Captain's Run NRL on Twitter. And thanks. We'll see you next week.
Next Wednesday.
Boom. Done.